Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. You already know what time it is. It's time for that lady GA for Justice, Miss Georgia Allen, former president of the NAACP in Virginia Beach, and she's about ready to do her show. And let me bring her on because, I don't want to take up all the show. It's her GA for Justice. And Georgia Allen, where you at?
Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
I am here. I am here.
Oh, now let me take your picture down so people know
All
they can
right.
take your picture.
Look, I like that one a lot better. I cannot get the lighting right in here, so
Oh, okay.
but it's all good. Look, I come to you just as I am because
Hey,
that
that's
is
the way
who
it's
I
supposed.
am. I'm proud of who I am. And today's show, of course, we are focusing on the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Again, this is Georgia Allen coming to you live on WVDM Digital Media
Oh
with
yeah.
One Digital Media. And
Oh
he
yeah.
has opened up his radio lines so that we can have a conversation with the community, just to share a little information to hopefully have a impact on what is taking place all throughout our community. There's a lot going on all over Hampton Roads. There's a
Yeah.
ton of stuff going on. And so, as I shared initially, GA for Justice is a conversation about information. It is a conversation for correction because there's a lot of misinformation that get blown up, blown out of control, and travels down into our community,
Mm-hmm.
and it is of no real value to us. And then finally, a conversation for transformation. So each week we come on providing you with information that we hope that you will take away some of this information and use it for a worthwhile cause. So today and this month, the month of July, is the 7th principle of Kwanzaa. We have focused on Kwanzaa all year long. And what is so interesting, I was listening to Dr. Karen Hunter and Dr. Greg Carr, and they had a special guest on, and she's in education, and she says, "You know what? I focus on Kwanzaa all year long." I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
So more and more people recognize that Kwanzaa is not a once a year event. It may be 7 days, but guess what? Throughout our entire year, we can spend time on the various principles of Kwanzaa. And so for me, I felt that it was critically important because you have to repeat things over and over again to a group of people, a community, or even down to political agents. If you watch political agents and operatives, they say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And
Every year.
yes, and they say it all year long. And so what they have done is they have said it so much that people who are following them can just automatically repeat it. Whether they believe it or not, they automatically repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched what was being done that was negative, and I said, well, why are we not doing the very same thing, but from a positive standpoint? And so this radio show has allowed me to present a message to our community and to others, a message that says good things are happening all over. But unless we repeat that message, people are going to forget. They have, and now with technology, um, people don't remember things longer than a few seconds almost because another thing has now popped up on their
Yeah.
Facebook or on their text messaging or what have you. So I said, well, what if we did some of the same things that the bad guys do, but let's do it for good? So with the celebration of Kwanzaa, and again, it's the 7th principle. And as I was preparing for the show today, I thought about what God had done. 6 days shall I labor and do all the work, but the seventh day he stops. So he took 6 days to build the earth, to bring the birds, to do all of that. And then on the seventh day, he just sat back He looked at what he had created and he said, this is good. And he marveled at the magnificence of what he had done. And I said, so as I was looking at Kwanzaa, and each month I focus on one principle and one principle only. And of course, the first month of Kwanzaa was Umoja, or unity, foundational principle for a community that has been divided, distracted, destroyed in many ways from the time that we came over on the ships. It was a constant attack on us as a people. And so when you look at unity and you look at the significance and the importance of being together on one accord, how critically important that is a foundational principle that's going to help determine how successful you are. And one of the things that I always like to talk about is, do we want to be individuals or do we want to be a collective community? And unity talks about that. If we continue to operate as individuals and not operate as group unity, not operate with the sense of community, working together, then it's going to be easy to pick us off. If we have one Black billionaire, if they are 50, 100, 200, 300 white billionaires, well, guess what? They can absorb that billionaire and he's null and void. But if we build our community, and no, all of us won't be billionaires, but we sure can be doing a lot better than we are if we're doing it on a collective basis. Yeah. So this month, of course, is the seventh principle of Kwanzaa. And so I'm going to tell you what that means. Imani, or faith, is the profound belief in and commitment to, keep that in mind, a belief in and a commitment to all that is of value. Keep that in mind, of value to us as a family, a community, a people, and a culture. And you have one up here, which I like as well. And I was going to read that one off as well.
Oh, sorry.
So keep it on the screen.
Yeah.
To believe with all our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. Because if anyone has had a struggle, the Black community has had a struggle. So it is so important for us to look at Imani and look at it in both ways, to look at it from a standpoint of our family, our community, our people, our teachers, our parents, all of that, our leaders, and also look at the victory of our struggle. Even with everything that has been pushed against us, somehow, some way, we continue to be victorious in our struggles. So today, as we talk about the seventh principle of Kwanzaa, I'm going to integrate the other six principles, because I don't think we can have Kwanzaa without all of them together. And that's why there were seven principles put there. And so I'm so excited today, because when I think about the value, I want to remind us to ask ourselves questions. Okay, we should be questioning things, and we should be asking ourselves questions. Do you consider yourself a person of value? So if you're listening out there, think about that for a minute, because you can only be victorious if you feel like you're powerful, if you feel like you have something of substance, if you feel like you are a human being of importance, of significance, of value, is really what it boils down to. Am I of value? And I want us to begin to look at ourselves again. And that's why Imani, faith, is so important. And I wanted to do the first show, and then we'll bring on other guests, because I wanted to set the stage for the rest of the month. I wanted to set the foundation for the rest of the month, okay, with regards to Imani, with regards to faith. And again, the first principle, unity, to strive for and maintain in the family. Here we go again. Our parents, our teachers, our leaders, that's our family. in the family, to strive for and maintain in the family, excuse me, and the nation, and our community, in our race. So we are to strive and maintain unity in the family, in our community, in our race, in our nation of people. And so that's our job. So it's not for us to divide ourselves. It's for us to strive for and maintain unity in the family, in the community, in our race, and in our nation. And so, and then when we look back at Imani, look how that integrates. Look how it comes together. Okay. And so it's so critically important that we don't get disjointed, that we don't get confused by what is going on out here, but that we begin to pull ourselves together again. Okay. Because for years and years and years, we were more of a united community. Yes, there's been a lot of things that have been going on that has divided our community, whether it's integration, desegregation, misinformation, or whatever. But it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to bring back that group unity. It's our responsibility to bring back a sense of community. It's our responsibility to bring back that group togetherness. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how do we get back to that. Next, our second principle was Kujichagulia, or self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And what I like about that is we don't allow people to speak for us. We're more than capable, more than powerful, more than enough just in who we are. Just like I said when I came on, I'm good just like I am, okay? You don't have to fix me. You don't have to change me. You don't have to do any of that. And each one of us should have that same feeling, should know who you are, should know where you came from, so that you don't have to be bothered when someone says something negative. I was listening to a young lady on one of the shows, and I'll tell you, I listened to so much positive information and so much educational information. I cannot remember the young lady, but she said that I want to say it's a young lady down in Georgia, and she's filing a lawsuit against DT and Lindsey Graham. And I know everybody knows who DT is. I don't have to say that person's name. Okay. So she was saying that they were calling her all types of names. And they were like, well, doesn't that bother you? She says, no, I know who I am. Is that a powerful statement?
Yeah.
She wasn't bothered by the fact that they called her names, that they criticized her, that they tried to demean her. She says, no. And I like the firmness of the no. And this is why self-determination is so critically important for us within these Kwanzaa principles. When you know who you are, when you know what you stand for, when you know you have principles, when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are determined to reach your goal, it doesn't really matter what they call you. It only matters what you call yourself and what you believe about yourself and what you believe who you are. So self-determination, okay, that is so powerful. And that is one of the things that I really, really like about some of these people who are out here today, because of course we've been through so much. And I was also listening to speeches by Frederick Douglass, and he was talking about being a slave, and he wasn't doing the actual talking, of course. Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, on videos, they were talking, but they were using some of the things that he had written on paper about being enslaved and how he was treated. But he was determined, the self-determination of him as a young child, that he was not going to stay in that place forever. And so he figured out a way to escape and move on. He figured out a way to make sure that he could read. And what he did is he challenged other little kids that already knew how to read. And he said, I can read better than you. And so what would happen is Where he fell short, guess what?
Yeah.
Because they could actually read and was allowed to read and he wasn't, they kept educating him and he kept educating himself. So
Right.
self-determination. And so throughout our history, we have all of these things within us. And so, which brings me back to Imani. Faith is a profound belief in and commitment to all that is of value to us as a family, a community, a people, and a culture. Seventh principle, value. How do you value yourself? Do you value yourself as insignificant, or do you value yourself as significant, as powerful? So we got to make sure that we're teaching our children how to value themselves and not by what someone says, as in the case of the young lady who I think was a DA or attorney general in the state of Georgia, instead of allowing someone to say something. Those things that they say to you is only to disrupt you, okay? It is not to help you. It is simply to disrupt you, because if they can keep your mind all over the place and anywhere but what it's supposed to be on, guess what? They just won. So we're going to have to learn how to not allow every single solitary negative word that comes out to make that front and center. Some of these things, and I tell my friends this all the time, pick your fights. You don't have to fight everything. You can pick and choose your fights, okay? Because then you control the outcome. But if you allow someone to get you involved in every single fight that's out there, you'll find yourself fighting, but you won't ever find yourself winning. So we need you to win. We need our children to win. So we can't have them bogged down in one fight after another, especially insignificant fights. Okay. We're going to always be called names. We're going to always be put down in some shape, form, or what have you. But we don't have to stay down. Okay. We don't have to stay involved in those situations that are of no real value to us. What I'm here to talk to you about is value. How do we value ourselves? Okay. Do we value ourselves based on who you are? Or do you value yourself based on where you work? So I want you to think. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to tickle that brain of yours. Because guess what? We have stopped thinking. We just get information and we spew it out to the next person, and we don't evaluate it. We don't critically think about it. We don't do anything except for we hear it, it comes in, and we spew it out. So I want you to check your value. What's your value based on? How do you value yourself? Do you consider yourself someone of value? That's most of what I'm going to be focusing on today with the faith principle. Now, our next principle is ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujima. And ujima is important because it gets right back to that group unity, that sense of community, that group of togetherness. That's working together. Okay. If someone we know needs some help, we should be working collectively to assist them. And likewise, when we need help, we need to call on them so they can collectively work to assist us. And we need to make that part of our tradition, part of our principles, part of our foundation, part of our standards, and it should be what we do all the time. Okay. And this doesn't necessarily have to be our best friend. It could be just someone that we know. They need some assistance. So collective work and responsibility, and what that says to us is to build and maintain our community together and make our community's problems our problems. And do what? and to solve them together. So right now we have a lot of gun violence. Those are our community problems. That is not for one person to solve. That is not for the chief of police to solve by himself. That is not for if the issues are taking place primarily in one section of your community and it's on some of the same streets over and over again. It is not that particular city council member's job to fix that. It is not that particular school board member who is in charge of that district to fix it. It is not that state legislator or that state delegate or that state senator to fix it, even if it's in their district. What it is a united community problem, and it is our job to solve that problem together. Okay? Value. How well do we value one another? See, it's not enough to just value yourself. What kind of value do you put on your family, your friends, your community, your educators? What's the value you put on them? Okay. So it's critically important that we understand how important it is that we value ourselves more, that we value our community, our neighborhood, that block. Where's our block captains? Okay. What happened to them? What happened? We used to have captains of the block, and we had block parties, and we had events and activities, and there were things that our young people could do together. They knew each other. What happened? Our parents knew our friends' parents. Okay? They knew our friends. Okay. And so if I'm coming home with a girlfriend or boyfriend, then we were all family together. It was just a part of our tradition. It was part of our standards. It was part of our principles. And Kwanzaa is truly about principles, which we need to get back to. We need to get back to them. Okay. That is going to be our saving grace. That is going to help us to survive, because right now, what is going on in this nation is very destructive behavior. When you see a young man can shoot and kill police officers and other people, but yet somehow they're able to take him to jail, we are under attack. So it is critically important that we understand that we are a community. And so we must work in concert with one another, because if we don't, it could be your family or your friend that could be next. Because after they had that shooting, here's a young man driving a car, traffic violation, running away, and you shoot almost 100 times. And of that 100 times, 60 bullets hit his body. Collective work and responsibility. It is our responsibility to build and maintain our community together and make our communities problems. That's a problem, family. That's a problem, him being shot. Bullets flying over close to 100 and 60 hit his body. Together and make our communities problems, our problems, and solve them together. It's not enough to march. We have to solve these problems. We have to identify these problems, and we have to solve these problems so that they don't continue to happen again and again and again. And that is an external problem, but we have to do the very same thing with the internal problems, with the internal shootings, okay? We still have to solve those problems together, because guess what? Those are community problems. They're about all of us. It's not one person, it's all of us together. Do you have something you want to share?
Yeah, well, yeah, you're doing such a great job. I just hate to get in there and mess it up. But, with everything going on in the 757, and of course, no one person can solve a problem.
Absolutely.
But how can you solve a problem if you bring in people from other states to solve a problem in your own backyard?
Right.
You're saying that there's nobody in your community that can solve this problem, but you got to go to another state and bring an individual in. And there's nothing wrong with that, I guess.
Right.
But that came in Portsmouth in January.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go, July. Where's
Right.
where's the solution that y'all say y'all were gonna do?
Absolutely.
And then when they got them, then when they started talking on the news, they said, "Well, we're gonna need the grassroots people to volunteer."
Right.
But
So
they
I'm
gave
gonna pay this guy over here, but those of you
150,000.
who are already here,
We ain't giving you no money.
we can't give you any money.
No, you're not
And
getting
that's now becomes a community problem again, because we say to them is that, look, we're here. This is our community. This is
Right.
our family. These are our neighbors. Guess what? We don't need your guy that you brought in.
right.
There's enough people right here that can work on this situation together.
That's
And
right.
you need to fund them the same way that you're going to fund this other person. And so instead, guess what? We can spread the money around the community instead of into one body.
Yeah.
And so here again, this principle is so powerful. Our next principle is Ujamaa, and that is cooperative economics. To build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. It is not enough to have our stores and our shops if only one person is making money. Okay, let's take a look at a shop. Okay, somebody needs products in that shop. Who in the community is a designer? Who in the community? Where are the communities of manufacturers that we can buy from so that the products that come into our stores are coming from our community? And so we want to look at these things and make sure that we profit together, that we build together, that we grow these businesses together. And so that these businesses are growing and our children don't have to go to Mr. Man and ask him for a job, because guess what? We have those jobs right in our own community. So let's maintain our stores. Let's support our businesses. And then let's hold our business owners accountable, because we need them not just in their stores or in their restaurants. We need them to communicate in the community. We need them to be around. We need them to walk around and be with us at events and at other things, and not just have us come in and spend our money and then we don't see them other than if we go into their shop. So here again is, how much do you value those people who are coming across your threshold to do business with you? Do you value them? Do you see them as important? Do you see us as important? Do you see yourself as important? Or is your value only based on where you work, where you live, what you drive, what you wear, what's your education? Because we got all these people, man, I got a PhD. I got 4 degrees, 3 masters, and a PhD, you know? And so that's how they consider their value. Their value is based on a piece of paper that they got from an institution. And, you know, institutions used to be where you go and get locked up for some reason or another. You know, now they're saying educational institutions and political institutions and this institution and that institution. Okay. But did the institution teach you anything other than to continue the same plan that they put in place years and years ago? In addition to that institutional education, did you go out and educate yourself some more on Frederick Douglass? Did you go out and educate yourself some more and read more on Du Bois? Did you educate yourself a little bit more on people like Dr. Greg Carr, or some of the other people who are out here who are doing phenomenal work? And I hate to say his name. It's Embre X. I always have trouble with his name. I wrote it down, and I wished I could say it, but I can't say it right now. There are times when I can say it, it just rolls off my tongue, and then there are other times when it doesn't. But he talks a lot about racism in America, and they get so frustrated with him. And he talks to people in plain language. And the other thing is, he also puts it in both a book for adults, but he does it for children as well. And I know Ted Cruz had nerve to say something about his writing. And the professor said, well, he probably needed to read the children's edition because obviously he's not smart enough to read the adult version. And so we have all of these people from our community who have phenomenal knowledge and are able to share with us to help us move forward, but not just us as adults, but also our children. And so every time we can gather more information, it is to our benefit to gather more information, but to educate our children as well.
This is one book that we, when you take African Studies at Old Dominion,
Mm-hmm. All right.
That book right there has got everything you need to know about everybody.
Okay.
That's I think it is. And you get it at the African bookstore off of 33rd or 34th.
Okay, 35th Street.
35th Street, yeah.
35th Street. Okay, so to the listening audience, please let nobody turn us around. An African American anthology. And so, again, that's why I like having Henderson here, because Henderson is my partner. And so there is enough information out here for us, but we have to use it. Okay, we have to use it, and then we have to share it with others, so that as we continue to share this information, we see a different outcome. Because right now, the outcome that we're getting with regards to our children in the educational system, they're frustrated. And I can understand why they were frustrated, because I was frustrated when I came through the so-called integrated system. And, I went from a all Black grade school directly into high school, because where I was from, we didn't have a middle school or a junior high. We just went straight from elementary school directly, and we called it grade school back then, directly into high school. And so here I was in this high school with all of these people who were supposed to be so smart. And I found out once I got there, the reason why their test scores were so high, they were cheating. They were cheating. They were writing answers on their arms. They were writing answers underneath their skirts. So they slide their skirt up and the answers was written on their leg. The young men, they were writing on their arms. So they slide their sleeve back, scratch the side of their face, look down at their arm, and there they were with the answers. I had never seen that before. I was in a school system that we understood a lie's a lie, a truth is the truth. You either are honest or you're a cheater. And we didn't have gray areas. We did not have those type of gray areas. So for me, all of a sudden, to be plopped into the middle of these people who had all these different ways of saying a lie. They had a lie. They had a white lie. They had a little white lie. And now that community has alternative facts, which in my world, it's a lie. You either have truth or you have a lie. So it is just so crazy. It's so absolutely crazy. Okay, as we continue on, the next principle of Kwanzaa is Nia, or purpose. And that is to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Greatness. Did you hear that, audience? Greatness. Restore us to our traditional greatness. or restore us to our traditions, restore us to our standards, restore us to our principles, because they kind of washed out a lot of the things that we believed in, changed our outlook on things, and said, oh, no, let's do it this way because this is the best way. And without having the things reinforced, like I said, part of the reason why I do Kwanzaa like this, and part of the reason why I'm going over these principles every single month, is repetitiveness causes it to stay in your mind. And then you can go out and you can share with others so that we can have a different outcome, because we need to save our babies. We are at a point in time when we have to save our babies. And Imani, which is faith, faith brings us value, okay? Because we have a substance. We know what we believe. We can speak to our faith because we have a belief in a value system. And it is very critical for us to be able to know who we are, know what we stand for, and know the principles that we stand on. That's our foundation, okay? Know our traditions, those traditions that they kind of discarded and we didn't keep up with. You know, I can remember growing up, and one of the things that we did every single Sunday before we could have breakfast in our house, we had complete devotion. Every child had to know a Bible verse. And we were so hungry, but we did it. It stayed with us. It was substantive. It gave us a foundation so that when we went out into the world and all, we could back away from things that just took us too far off the path, off the beaten path. Didn't mean that we didn't do things wrong like anybody else child. Yes, I'm a daughter of a pastor, but it still gave us some foundation, still gave us some principles that we could stand on. There was traditions that we did. Even when the grandkids came to town, they were like, well, what we gonna eat? Because I mean, every Sunday, and mom, and by that time my father had passed away, my mom had remarried, and I had a stepfather, mom and my stepdad. Every Sunday, you were having devotional in our house. That was just part of what we did. And those traditions sustain us. And so we need to get back to some of the traditions that help to sustain us, because if we don't, not having the traditions is going to destroy us. Not having traditions, not having principles, not having standards will destroy us. And if we want our community to last, if we want it to grow, if we want it to become all that it can be, then we need to hold on. We need to reinstitute values, traditions, standards. And the thing of it is, they're non-negotiable. I love that about Sister Soldier. Sister Soldier said, your standards are non-negotiable. Okay? They're non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate your standards. Okay? They're your standards. They have to stay your standards, and you have to know your value, and you have to keep your value and not allow someone else to change that for you. Also, the next one is Kaumba. Kaumba is creativity. Kaumba is to do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Okay? I think I left out Nia purpose. Okay, I had it pulled up and then I went past it. So let me get back to Nia, which is purpose. To make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore it. No, I did. To our traditional greatness. I did talk about our traditional greatness. And then after that is Kaumba, which is creativity, to do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. That's very important. That's the sixth principle of Kwanzaa. Okay. Keep in mind that we are originally from Africa, okay? And regardless of what people share with you about Africa, if you've ever met people from Africa, if you know people from Africa, they have photos of Africa just like we have photos here in America. And I can share with you a prime example. When I lived overseas, I went overseas and I would take photos of where I lived and everything. And I was living in Belgium, which is a European country. Very few people look like me. And they were like, "That's where you live?" It's like, "Yeah, that's where you live?" Yeah. So after they did it the third time, I said, "Oh, you've been watching too much of American propaganda. You thought everybody black lived in the projects." No, that's not the case. All of us, we're out here, we work, we go to work, we have lifestyles and various different types. I said, as a matter of fact, while this looks really good, there are plenty of people who's where they live look 10 times better than where I live. Okay. But this is what happens to our community. We're bombarded with a lot of propaganda that is negative. Africa is bombarded with propaganda that is negative. And then when you talk to people, you see people's photos of places where they live. Do they have poverty? Yes. Does Belgium have poverty? Yes. Does England have poverty? Yes. Does Canada have poverty? Yes. So everywhere there is some poverty. But the whole country and the Black community in our Black nation should not be defined simply on the poverty or simply on the things that doesn't meet certain standards, because we set our standards. Okay. We set our traditions. We set policy in our community. And when we do that, then we can send out the messaging just like we're doing on the best of the 757 today with GA for Justice. We can do that for ourselves and not rely on someone else to champion our message, because guess what? They screw it up every time. They misrepresent. they do a lot of things that is not in our best interest. And so it's our job. It's our job to collectively, by our group, by our unity, to make sure that we do what is in the best interest of all of us. Okay? Because our children is relying on us. They're relying on us to make things better. They're relying on us to challenge the norms or what has become the norm. They're relying on us to change that and bring about a change that is beneficial to them. Just like the principal said, we have to leave it better. We can't leave it as is. We can't leave it as we inherited it. We have to leave it better than what we inherited, because the folks that came before us, they worked very, very hard to ensure that things were better for the next generation. Our ancestors, they worked extremely hard. The Paul Robesons, the Ruby Dees, the Cicely Tysons, Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, all of those folks, they worked extremely hard to make things better. And so we have an obligation and responsibility. And Sister Soldier, and you will hear me talk about Sister Soldier a lot because I love her dearly. Sister Soldier said, look, we need to understand our roles and we need to understand our responsibilities, okay? It's up to us to understand our roles. It is up to us to understand our responsibilities. Because if we don't know our role, if we get our roles confused, if daddy's supposed to be head of the house and mom decided she's going to be the head of the house, we create a conflict in the household. So let us get our roles and our responsibilities, our traditions, our standards. Let us get those things back on track, because once we do that, we're going to have a better outcome. Our children are going to be better because their confidence is going to increase. Our children are going to be better because they value themselves more. And again, you will hear me repeat this again and again, maybe not every week, but a lot of weeks you'll hear me talk about this. And that is Sister Soldier's message. The message is, I mean we. I am you and you are me. We are us, and us is them, and them is they, and we are all in this together. Okay? We got to understand that we are all in this together. We can no longer say I and think of ourselves and ourselves alone, or say I and mean me, and I'm the most important thing out here. When we say I, we have to mean we. It cannot be a singular. It has to be a group. It has to be all of us. It has to be group unity. It has to be a sense of community. It has to be a sense of group togetherness, because that is what's going to bring us out of this storm, because we are in a storm. We are in a storm. And faith, Imani, is our profound belief in and commitment to all that is of value. And all that is of value is all of us. All that is of value is our family. All that is of value is our community. All that is of value is our people. All that is of value is our culture. And we have to make sure that we have a commitment. See, we half step with our commitment. We got one foot in, we got one foot out. Commitment is not dipping your toe in the water. Commitment is taking a dive into that water. And we're going to have to start learning how to dive in and not just stick our toe in. We got to truly be committed as a community. We have folks running for office right now who weren't committed. They did not believe with all of their heart in our people and in the righteousness and victory of our struggle. But guess what? When the doors open for the single member districts, they raised their hand and said, I want to run for office. Okay? The same folks that testified on behalf of city council saw an opening where instead of having to run in a city of over 400 and some thousand and running all over the whole city, now they can run in a district of 40 some thousand with the voting population age, VAP, voting age populace of somewhere around 30 some thousand. Well, that makes it a whole lot easier. So these are the type of things that we have to understand as a people. We have to speak truth, and we have to have a belief level that is so powerful that we know that we are capable and able to do anything, and we can be successful. And we must challenge how we think. It is our responsibility to challenge our thinking. It's our responsibility to challenge our children thinking. We must challenge how we think, and we also must challenge what we think. Okay? It is critically important. When we have faith, we know that we're powerful. So we must act on that power. I like what Dr. King says. Power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is just sentimental and anemic. So if you're sitting here just loving on everybody and you ain't got no power, baby, you just sentimental. Okay? You are not moving that bar. You are not changing any outcomes. You're not making any major decisions. You're not putting people in office that need to be in, and you're sure enough for not taking folks out of office who don't need to be there. So I always like to end my shows talking a little bit about elections. Elections coming up in November, and it's critically important that you vote. And guess what? We don't always get the person of our preference, okay? Don't always happen. But what I learned over the last few weeks when these voting, when the U.S. Supreme Court decided that they were going to get rid of abortions. And again, I always like to do my disclaimer. I'm not a believer in abortions personally, but I'm also not a believer that anybody's got any business in your bedroom. They're now telling you whether or not you can use contraceptives. So on the one hand, they say I don't want you to have an abortion. But then on the other hand, they're saying, well, don't use contraceptives. Oh no. Okay. So that's a little bit too much government in the bedroom. Okay.
And they ain't bought no ticket.
Right. How you gonna be in somebody's bedroom?
Sad.
Okay. We're paying your salary. You're not paying ours. You're not paying our salary. So this is why it's critically important. We don't always get the person we prefer. But guess what? If it ain't, they have a time limit. And that time limit is what you give them in terms of whether you leave them in office or you vote them out and find a replacement. Because to my listening audience, it's time for some replacements. Just like football teams, you know. First string quarterback, break his leg, guess what? Backup, second string comes in, he's a replacement. We need to look at replacement. We need to look at politics a little more seriously, because these guys worked on this year after year after year for 50 years. So all of you who are out there saying, look, Joe Biden ain't doing it. He's been there 2 years, sweetheart. These folks worked on their issue for 50 years. Okay? For 50 years. 50 years. Did you hear me? Let me say it one more time. They worked on the issue to overthrow, overrule, to kick out Roe v. Wade. They took 50 years. And you know what? They never gave up. Some of them died. But the team that was in place, the processes that was in place was still there, even after folks who may have initiated the process died going on. Some of their children died going on. Okay? So I want you to understand this is not microwavable. It's a long process. It takes work. And most of you, nowhere in the world you could have walked for over 300 and some days because you wanted to ride anywhere on the bus that you wanted to ride. You couldn't have done it. Okay. So all these people saying, if I was there, this is what I would have done. You can't even boycott for 5 minutes because you got to buy your red bottom shoes. If we told you, do not buy Gucci, do not buy LV, do not buy any of these things, you couldn't even stop buying for 30 days. You couldn't do it for 10 days. So I'm saying to you, this is a process. You can't stop, as Henderson would say, the dream maker said, you couldn't even stop for 1 day. Same thing with your nails and your hair. You couldn't do it. So don't sit here and criticize those who came before you because they haven't done everything you want them to do in 5 minutes. And don't operate as if because you voted for someone to be in office that they have the power to snap their fingers and make everything happen, make all the bad things go away, make everything you want come into fruition. There are two parties. I want to remind you again. The Dems don't have a majority, sweetheart. They have even Steven. It's 50 Dem senators and 50 Republican senators. If anybody falls off, anybody falls out, They are less than 50. Okay. So, what you need to understand clearly, what you need to clearly understand is that if you want the things that you want, that you say you really want, you're going to have to give the people who are voting on things that you care about more votes. Give them more votes. Replace some of them. They may not, some of the people, Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, replace her. You guys got to look at how this stuff operates, how politics operate. Okay, because when you do that, form your coalition and says, you know what? I like that guy down in Louisiana, and I'm gonna put my emphasis on getting him elected. I like this dude over here in Kentucky. I'm gonna put my emphasis on him. I'm gonna help him get elected. Okay, how many senators do we need to pass everything? 50 is not the number. Okay. I would say at minimum 60. Minimum. But personally, me, I want them all. Okay. And guess what? I believe that you should stay in their chest the whole time they are there. So if you're not doing it as an individual, you have a team so that one day you may be doing the phone call, but tomorrow your team member may be doing the phone call. But the bottom line is you have to push people to do what you want them to do. Okay. So with that being said, I'm coming up close to the end of the show today. Let me see if I got a quote by Dr. King. I love Dr. King because they sanitized him. But the quote that I like is, if power is used correctly, there is nothing wrong with power. Because we a lot of times as Black people, we're like, well, I don't want to do to somebody what they did to me. Well, having power and using it correctly, ain't nothing wrong with that. Use it. Okay, so it's very important. There's another one that I absolutely love by Dr. King that I used to use all the time. Don't use it quite as much anymore, and that is, we live in a society where we have solutions that don't solve, answers that don't answer, and explanations that don't explain a doggone thing. So we need to start having solutions that actually solve stuff. We need to get answers that really answer stuff. And we need people to actually explain things, because guess what? All they're doing is they're making up alternative facts, making up craziness and everything. And so you're still walking away not understanding exactly the correct answer to the question that you asked. So keep in mind, you don't want to be listening to folks who have solutions that don't solve jack, just like Henderson was saying earlier, where they brought in somebody way back in January, and where are we today? So that was a solution, supposedly, that didn't solve anything. So with that being said, this is GA for Justice. I'm coming to the end of the show. I look forward to seeing you next week. And we'll go from there. We're going to stay on faith, Imani faith, all month long. Value yourself, value yourself, value yourself. With that, see you next week. You're on mute. All right. I can hear you now.
Okay. You're listening and watching GA for Justice with Georgia Allen, former president of the NAACP. Don't forget to hit the link and share it with other people on your Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you reach them. You can even text them, and you can also email them. I also want to send a shout out to Teresa Riddick, who was, always one of the faithful viewers, saying,
Hi, Teresa.
and have a great day. So with that said, remember to love yourself, put God first, and everything else will fall in place. It doesn't matter what others think about you. It's what you think about yourself. Till the next time, GA for Justice with Georgia Allen will be here next Thursday, same time, same channel, and same bet station. Until
Okay.
then, see you later, Georgia.
All right. Take care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.